This is an open letter to the Saint Society. In ancient Middle East, not when I say ancient, I don't mean 100,000 years ago, I mean 5,000 years ago. They had this tradition, some parts of Middle East, they had this tradition that the village would not bury their dead. What the village would do is take their dead, and whoever dies, the village would take that person up a hill. They find that biggest hill in the village, in the neighborhood. They take the biggest hill right in front of the village, right front and center. They would take that hill and go on top of it and build this big circular structure. And every time somebody would die in the village, they would take this person up a walkway. They build a walkway up to that structure on top of the biggest hill in the neighborhood, in front of the village, and leave him there. And then the nature takes its course, and vultures and this and that. They all get a piece, and then the bones are later thrown into a well at the center of that structure. So pretty, routine things. Somebody dies, you take him up the hill, you put him inside there, and after a week or so, without anybody noticing, the bones are one person goes and quietly throws what the bones that remain after, the the vultures and other creatures go through the body. Whatever bone remains, which has been bleached by the sun for a few days as well, very clean, bleached by the sun and clean. So these clean bones are, that doesn't cause disease. The bones are clean because they have, all the meat is gone, and the bone has become, uh, you know, somewhat clean by the just sunshine and UV rays. So, and bleached, and then the bones are added to earth through the hole in the center of the structure. The thing you get from this, the thing some may get from this, is that what do you see in this picture? Death is right front and center. Death is center stage. In front of the village, there is death every day. According to statistics, every year 10% of the population dies. Average, especially for that time. Now we are at like 7 or 8%. That time, let's say 10%. So a nice sized village of 3,600 people would have 365 dead per year. And let's assume they all die evenly. You have 365 days that this village of 3,650 people, every day they see a caravan of people going up the hill in front of them. Every day death is reminded. When I'm trying to argue, when death is reminded, being reminded of death often has a bigger effect in making a society more moral than not encountering the concept of death on the daily basis. Let me put it this way. Take a gangbanger, one of the hardest hardcore gangbangers, you know, the toughest one you can find, and force him to spend 6 hours Sunday morning walk in a cemetery. Force him or entice him pay him to spend 6 hours of any given Sunday morning in a cemetery. If this gangster spends 6 hours in the cemetery on a Sunday morning, we pay you $600. I can assure you, after a year of every Sunday, 6 hours walking in a cemetery and having nothing else to do because you're getting paid for your time, $100 an hour. We are paying you $100 an hour for 6 hours if you walk in the cemetery. You have nothing else to do. You think, then you watch the dead. You read the dead, the tombstones. He will eventually. First of all, his reading skills will improve. Second of all, the concept of death not being some vague things that we don't see of or hear of on the daily basis. Have you noticed how fast? Let me go another way. How fast does the police service pick up or take care or remove the evidence of a highway crash? How fast do they do it? Really fast. I don't think, for the same reason that the death reminder makes you more moral, the accident reminder and seeing the accident and the police not picking up the accidents so fast, that will make you a more cautious driver. Death reminder makes you a more moral person. Then the same way as seeing a traffic accident and being stuck behind it for 6 hours or 3 hours reminds you of driving safely. Seeing images of death, at least, passing by some bodies and some, crumpled up vehicles will remind you of death, what will remind you of how fragile the shit is, and then you drive safer. The same way, what I'm trying to say is, if the futility of life is reminded to you every day by showing you that one member of your community just went up the hill, didn't come back, that will make you a more moral person. Much better, much more efficiently than the church or the mosque or the synagogue will try to make a more moral person. I think this religion business is a racket because they're trying to make you more moral by making it more refined. You come into this room and this is the procedure. You take off your shoes, you put a hat on, you wrap this around that, and you wrap that around this, and you bend over and you stand up and you make a circle around yourself, and then you go sideways and then you bend over, and this whole process that is common in many religions, all of religions, this is sort of like has got in the way of the essential. You want a more moral person, make sure that person understands the futility of life. And the rest of it, what is our symbol? Is our symbol this or our symbol that? Is it the moon and the star, or is it the cross, or is it the divide, or is it the multiplication sign, or if it's the division sign? And here, pay me so I can, say a prayer so you can end up with Jesus. I'm sorry, that's the clutter. That will not make you a more moral person. Will not make your society a more moral person. So certainly not as much as death reminder and making sure people understand is and it's often repeated to them the futility of life. People become more fair when people really goes into their bone, becomes part of their identity, their knowledge about the futility of life. Exactly the opposite of what the religions are selling. Our religions have an aim. There is a somewhere to get. Fucking this is going to come, and that fucker is going to come, and this motherfucker is going to come back, and the other. These religion has an aim. Always comes up with an aim.
Sign up for Whispering's Pure Stream.
Yes, I will sign up with Whispering's Pure Stream. Is a great radio that plays piano. Please go online and subscribe to Whispering's Pure Stream from Solo Piano Radio. Unofficial advertiser. solopianoradio.com. Anyway, the thing is, you have to, if you bring about death, the real motivation of being good human beings is to be reminded of death often, daily, in fact. If you go back to the tradition, I don't know if it's possible or not, but if you go back to the tradition of instead of putting your, what you call crematories or putting your cemeteries away from population, instead of putting it away, you have to put it in the center of the town. As the cemeteries should be the center of the town. Almost everybody should pass by the cemetery every day. That death reminder will just, some may think I'm going to say it puts the fear of God in them. No, it doesn't. That death reminder reminds them of the futility of life. And then you will pretty noticeably see that the greed goes away, the want goes away, the VIP section is not going to be very popular anymore. You see what I'm saying? People will not, hold themselves in such high regards. You generally get more pleasant people to deal with on a daily basis. If you put the fucking cemetery in the middle of the town, or some idea like that, make the biggest skyscraper in town make it glass and make it a crematory, and do the cremation on top of the skyscraper, and everybody notices that there's a cremation going on. This death reminder, if it does happen on a daily basis, let's say in Palestine, in Israel, if this happens, that the dead are not swept under the carpet, they are put on top of the mountain, and there's a procession, and everybody in town, in city, knows right now, you see that smoke over there, that's a guy they just smoked. That death reminder makes people less greedy, more compassionate, and because it reminds people of the futility of life. This, I believe, Mr. Tucker Carlson, this idea of reminding them of the futility of life, which is exactly the opposite of waiting for a Messiah, or our 10 commandments is better than your 9 commandments, and it's better than your 12 commandments. This death reminder and reminding people of the futility of life, just like I can assure you, if you pay, here's find the toughest, gangbanger in your neighborhood or in any neighborhood in Maine. crap is not made. Maybe, go down to New York, Mr. Carlson, and, pay the toughest gang member that you can find. Not tough in terms of that he won't take 600. He doesn't care for $600. Tough in terms of stupid and tough, and who can use a $600 paycheck for 6 hours. Find a gangbanger, a stupid gangbanger, and sell him. Use. I'm going to, come and watch you walk 6 hours in the cemetery, and if you do so, I give you $600. Do that for a year. Do that for 3 months and see if you see a difference in the gangbanger. If this proves the case, which I'm sure it will, just personality wise, perspective wise, there's a point at which even the most stupid gangbanger, lawless, anarchist, greedy, stupid, whatever mixture of this percentage wise is present, or the CEO of Goldman Sachs. I mean, he has enough money, so you have to force the CEO of Goldman Sachs to spend 6 hours in a cemetery every Sunday morning. As part of his community service, just for being rich. As part of the community service for being rich, you can keep your money and be rich, but you have to spend every 6 hours every morning in walking around in a cemetery on Sunday mornings every week. Not every day, which was the traditional concept. Not every day. You don't have to be reminded of death by that procession that goes up the hill. You don't have to do that, but you do at least should be reminded of that once a week. Spend Sundays 6 hours in the cemetery. If you're rich, you do it as part of your community service, and if you're poor, we pay you to spend 6 hours in the cemetery every Sunday morning. I can assure you, you will have a different society. They might be still stupid, some of them, but you will get a much more what you're trying to get out of religion, you will get out of that. Salute. You're trying to get out of religion something that's, a more moral society, a better society, a more compassionate society, a more logical society. But unfortunately, once people go towards religion, it's not again the smartest guy who takes over. Just like your democracy, once the system goes in this way, it's not the smartest guy who becomes the leader. It's the most popular guy, and the frat boys are always more popular, although they're not as smart as the smart kids. The smart kids are never popular. That's why your democracy will never go anywhere. You will start well, but you will always end up shitty because, smart people are not popular. And popular people are not smart. So, it just goes by nature, because to be popular, the maximum amount of people have to approve of you. That means you don't accept anything based on logic, you accept things based on popularity. That means you don't have any value system of your own. You become a representative of the value system of other people, common people. You become the representative of the value system of the common people. Do common people know their ass from a hole in the ground? No, they don't. So you become the representative of what is popular amongst people, common people who don't know their ass from the hole in the ground. Do you think that's a great system? The representatives or the representative? Anyway, governance based on popularity is obviously is dead on arrival. But my point is this: Your politician, your businessman, your common people, everybody benefits if there is this in your not glorification of death, but presence of death. If the presence of death is is a daily reminder, or at least a weekly reminder for all of your population, from the poorest to the richest, believe me, the richer man is going to become more giving, less taking, less greedy, and the poor man and the common man becomes more compassionate and more caring and less destructive. You have to show the results. You have to show the futility of life by showing death often. Your news organizations go out of their way not to show death. Blur the image. We can't show you the image because the image is bad. I'm sorry, to prevent that, you have to show it. You have to remind them of that to make them more compassionate. How hard is this to understand, Mrs. Amonpour? How hard is this to understand? Show death if you want to see more compassion. More logic.